Hey there, in this tutorial I'll be talking over the fourth step of creating a project page on CEO innovations. Specifically, I'll be focusing on this first term in this fourth step of using Markdown. Markdown is a shorthand version of HTML that will let us write up our website really easily. It essentially tells the computer or how to display things on the website, but uses a relatively simple format that makes it easy to write out your text without getting bogged down by syntax that you would have in HTML. Mainly on our site, you need to know about these heading terms in Markdown, which will be a hashtag then a space. The paragraph, which is just writing straight text. And then links and images. A link will be these two brackets and then a parentheses, and an image will be the exact same thing except with an exclamation point in front. And that's just a brief overview. There's lots of things you can do with Markdown. The Markdown syntax guide is linked here, so don't feel like you have to memorize this. Just go back to the syntax guide to figure out how to display what you want to display. So using Markdown, we can create a pretty simple page on CEO innovations. The absolute simplest version of this will be just writing straight Markdown under your front matter, which will look something like this. Is an example. Here we have a header, a paragraph, a subheader, and then a list about some facts about toast, a picture, and a link. One thing to know about Markdown is it has to be right up against the front of the page. You have a space in front of some of your syntax that won't work. So just keep that in mind. And this is just a very simple way of writing out your text and then also choosing how to display it using Markdown. If we were to put this on the page, we'll end up with this white box block of text with a title, our paragraph, our subtitle and list, our picture, and a link, just like we wrote on Markdown. One thing to note here is that later on we'll talk about something called div elements, which will let you get different sections of your page to look different ways, kind of like this. In Markdown, you won't be able to use div elements when you have straight text like this. So a preferred way to use the straight Markdown will be using the free-write div element. This will just look like this. Markdown equals 1 signifies that this is meant to be code that the computer reads. And you can just go and check to make sure you got it right with another file. So once you have this will do the exact same thing as before, but it'll let you create multiple sections that you wouldn't be able to otherwise. For example, this looks the same. However, if I were to make 2 free-write sections, with 2 different blocks that divide our page. When I'm using these div blocks, if I try to write something outside of the div block, it won't register. So you'll have to choose between writing a straight block of Markdown, maybe if you're doing a really simple page, or using those div blocks. And if you want straight Markdown, just encasing that Markdown in one of those free write containers. So for example, then my second section won't show up. And again, don't feel like you have to memorize any of the syntax. This is all documented and you can come back to it. But this is just an overview of the language we'll be using to write up our page, which is Markdown.